We can cut this. It recorded there. I may have made a mistake. I just sold all of my US stocks. Now, the reason why I sold all my US stocks, you're going to have to wait around and watch the video for that. But it accounts for about £6,500, which is near enough like 25% of my portfolio that I just sold out of. Let's get into the video. So half of my portfolio is on Freetrade and half of my portfolio is on Trading 212. Now let's go and take a look at the damage that I have caused over this last 2 weeks. If we take a look at my portfolio, it's currently sitting at £12,779 on Freetrade. And you can see here, I only hold VWRL and then 5 UK positions in this portfolio. Now, if you're a regular viewer of my channel, you would know that I usually have US stocks in this portfolio as well, but now I don't. So let's go take a look at the activity page and show you what I have been up to. So on the 15th of January, which as of recording this video was about 11 days ago, I sold out of my position in Google, Microsoft, Realty Income, Amazon, and Pepsi. Now we're going to go through all of these positions, the gains and losses that I've made in each of these positions, and tell you why I did this. I did have 8 shares of Google. I sold out of all of those. I had 4 shares of Microsoft, 48 shares of Realty Income, 4 shares of Amazon, and 8 shares of Pepsi. So not too long ago, I actually sold out of smaller positions and bought into some positions of these US stocks simply to make up a whole share of those positions. And I did that because I'm transferring my portfolio across to Trading 212. When you transfer your portfolio from Freetrade to Trading 212 or across to any different platform for that matter, they require you to have whole shares. So when they transfer it, it's easier for them to do. Instead of having 0.14567 of a share, they're just transferring 48 shares, for example. So one of the other things when you transfer from Freetrade over to Trading 212, or when you transfer out of Freetrade, is that any US companies or any US stocks or any US shares that you want to move out of Freetrade, they actually charge you £17 per position. So originally I'd thought if I had to sell all of these positions, I would incur selling fees, and those selling fees would sort of counteract the transfer fee. So the transfer fee would almost pay for itself. But when I was thinking about it, £17 per share, I've got 5 different positions. It would be £85 to transfer these 5 positions. Now, you know, there's not that much money in there for £17 per position. So £17 from £720 is not a great deal. £17 out of £2,100 is also not that big of a deal. If I had a bigger portfolio and my selling fees were quite high, then I would consider just transferring it across. But I made a decision to sell out, and it was on the 15th of January. So I'd already submitted my transfer request from Freetrade to Trading 212, and that is ongoing. It's still ongoing. That's why I still have cash sitting in the account. You can see here I have £6,580 of cash sitting in this account. So it was a bit of a quick decision to sell out of these positions simply because I'd already submitted the transfer request. It was ongoing. Freetrade got in contact with me and said, if you transfer these, we're going to charge you £85, so £17 per stock. And in that moment, I sort of realized actually it's quite a lot of money. And I did a bit of mental arithmetic at that point, some actual arithmetic. So I figured out how much it would actually cost me. And I realized that it was probably beneficial for me to sell out of these positions instead of transferring them across. They're not massive positions. They're not hundreds of thousands of pounds where £17 is not going to make a difference, or even tens of thousands of pounds where £17 is not going to make a difference, but they're small positions. So I made a decision to sell out of these positions. In a moment, I'm going to take you through what that looks like, the fees that I have been charged to sell versus the £17, and see how that's going to affect my returns from those stocks, and also how that's going to affect my return going forward. I'm also going to talk to you about what I'm going to do with this money. As you can see, I have £6,580 in the account. I'm going to talk to you about what I'm going to do with that money from today and when it gets transferred over to Trading 212. So this is my spreadsheet where I track all of my positions, all of my portfolios in one place, and it pulls together my portfolio from Freetrade and Trading 212 to give me a whole number for all of my positions. So just a quick overview of the portfolio. My total value is £24,350. Now, only £17,000 of that is invested simply because I sold out of my US positions, or most of my US positions, giving me £7,300 in cash. So we just saw that I had £6,500 in cash on Freetrade. The remaining cash is sitting on my Trading 212 account. Let's just go take a look. On the info tab, we can see here that I now only have 12 active positions, and I have 13 inactive positions, or positions that I've sold out of. And you can see here that these positions that I've sold out of, if I just zoom in a little bit, are Google, Realty Income, Microsoft, Pepsi, and Amazon. Now we're going to take a look at an in-depth view of each of these positions, but you can also see that I have a Google position here, which is my remaining holding on Trading 212. So if we take a look at these positions, now that I've sold out of them, to see the gains that I've made on these positions. So these are the 5 positions. So I had £2,090 invested in Realty Income. I had £1,253 invested in Google, £1,375 invested in Microsoft, £943 invested in Pepsi, and £723 invested in Amazon. So as you can see, I actually made a gain on 3 of those stocks and a loss on 2 of those. In total, I had invested £6,386, which came from £5,122, which relates to a 24.69% return, or £1,264 return. My total return for these positions is £1,446, or 28.24%, because that includes the dividends that I've received on these positions. So you can see most of the dividends I received were from Realty Income. Now let's have a look line by line. So Realty Income, I invested £2,200, but I sold it for £2,090. So I made a loss of £121, or 5.47%. So I received £128.99 of dividends. That actually brings me to a return for that stock of £7.97, or 0.36%. Now that isn't great. Obviously, I yielded around about 5.5 to 5.8% in dividends, but I made a loss on the market return of 5.47%, which isn't great. So I returned basically nothing from that position. Now, if we have a look at Google, Microsoft, and Amazon were sort of exceptions where I bought them at really good times in the market. It was around October, November 2022 when the market was at a low, and I actually did quite well out of these positions. So with Google, I had invested £671 and I returned £1,253, which means I made £581.61, or 86.56%. Then for Microsoft, same sort of thing again, £825 invested, £1,375 I sold for, which is £555 gain, or 66.7%. Then Amazon, £307, or £723 what I sold it at, which was a £416 return, or 135%. Those positions were significant to the return. So out of those positions, I returned £1,569, inclusive of the small amount of dividends I received from those positions. Now, the one big one that I didn't do so well on was Pepsi. So I invested £1,100 and I sold it for £943, making a loss of £162, or 14.73%, which is quite a big number. Inclusive of dividends, where I received £32 of dividends in total, it brought it down to negative £130, or 11.83% loss, which isn't great. Pepsi was probably one of those positions where I could have held on to it for a bit longer, maybe another 6 months or so, and it may have recovered a little bit, but it was on a downward spiral over these last few months. It wasn't doing very well. So in reality, I'd probably be better off investing that money elsewhere anyway. And Realty Income, one of the positions where I actually believed in, I was planning on holding this position because I believed that when interest rates came down, that their stock would start returning more and more. But since the US has had some economic trouble, it hasn't been that positive. There's not been as much positive news to bring that stock to return positive numbers for me. So selling out of it, I'd probably be better off putting that money elsewhere. So the three tech companies, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. I already have another position in Google in Trading 212 because I believe in Google, and I've hopefully bought at a good price in Trading 212. So that stock should hopefully return more for me anyway. And in Microsoft and Amazon, I actually do still believe in these companies, but I sold out of them because of the fees. So now let's go take a look at how those fees would have affected my return versus the selling fees have affected my return. So over here, I have made some calculations. So if I have £17 is the transfer fee for each of them, which gives me an £85 total. So in total, I would have made a loss of around about 1.33% on that £85. A 1.3% loss isn't great. Obviously, taking that on the chin for free is kind of annoying. It's basically like just handing someone 1% of your investing for no reason. It's pointless. How that would have affected the stocks individually, it would have sent realty income into negative. So where it was positive by £8, it would have made it return negative by £9, affecting it by about 0.8%. And then if you go down the scale, so Google, it would have affected by about 1.36%, Microsoft by 1.24%, Pepsi by 1.8%, and Amazon, by my smallest position, would have affected it by about 2.3%, which it gets bigger because the stock value is smaller. Whereas if we go to the selling fees, so the selling fees here I've put in from the Freetrade transactions. So my realty income position was the biggest, so it had the biggest selling fee because I think it was around, it would have been a fixed fee of the selling fee. Now I've calculated it to be 0.59%. Funnily enough, it's Freetrade. Yeah, sure. That's one of the reasons I'm leaving Freetrade, because it's not exactly free. If we look at the total fee spend on those selling fees, it was £37.91 or 0.6%. So I made a saving of around about 0.74%, or what does that give me? £47.09. So I made a saving of around £47, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when your portfolio is quite small, which I still think of my portfolio as quite small, £47 does mean quite a bit of difference. And in reality, it gives me a push to do something else with that money. So what am I going to do now? I have £6,500 sitting in cash in my Freetrade account. It's currently ready to be transferred across to Trading 212. One of the benefits of making this decision and forcing myself to sell out of some of my favorite positions in my portfolio is it's making me realize that I need to do something else with that money. It's making me rethink my investing strategy, and it's also making me come up with an idea to do something with this money. Now, I've had this idea for a long time. I've actually been sitting on this for quite a few months now. I obviously have to wait for Freetrade to transfer it across to Trading 212 to do anything with the money, because it's currently sat in like a limbo state, out of the market, not really doing anything. What I'm planning on doing is making some new investing series going forward. One of my ideas is to invest in 3 different tech sector ETFs and compare them in a Trading 212 pie. So I'd probably invest around about £1,500 to £2,000 and track these different tech sector ETFs over this next year to see how they perform. I also would like to try out some different all-world ETFs. So I'm planning on doing an all-world ETF video coming up, where I'm going to try out some different all-world ETFs. The same sort of thing, invest about £1,500 to £2,000 in 3 or 4 different all-world ETFs to see how they perform and put them in a pie together to test out each of these ETFs to give a review for you guys. But also, I'm not a pro investor. I made this decision on a whim, sort of in an emergency, under time pressure, because I've been asked to do this, to make this decision by Freetrade. They asked me if I wanted to sell out of these positions to save that money. I'm still waiting for Freetrade to get back to me on what is happening, because this has happened over nearly 2 weeks ago, and they haven't updated me on how the transfer is going. I actually put through the transfer about a month ago, and I'm still waiting on an answer on where it's going, what's happening. When I get all this money in one place, I'll then actually settle on a decision and make a decision. But I'm also sort of asking you guys, if you've made it this far in the video, what should I do? What do I do with this money? Do I whack it all in some different ETFs to see how it does? Or do I make another series like investing £100 a day, like I'm doing with my £50 a day video? I do want to invest for my future, but I do realize that whatever I do with my money, realistically, if I'm investing in a stock market, as long as I'm not picking individual stocks or picking some terrible investing strategies, I think my money will return value, make good returns, regardless of what happens over the next 5, 10, 25 years. So I'm more inclined to try and make content as well as making investment returns. I'm excited to see what I can do with this money. And also, I'm hoping that you guys are excited to see me invest this money as well. So I think when I do decide what I'm going to do with this money, I'm going to make a video on actually investing the money directly into the stock market, whether it's £6,000 into one thing or whether it's split over multiple different things. I'm going to make a video, I'm going to record it, and I'm going to allow you to join in on me investing this money. And I want the community or the people viewing my YouTube channel, these videos, who are subscribed to this channel, to sort of be a part of this investing journey and follow along with me making decisions like this, following along with someone who doesn't really know what they're doing and who's gone from no money a few years ago to now sitting on £25,000 nearly. So I think it'll be fun to include the YouTube channel in not the decision on where I'm going to put the money, because at the end of the day, I make that decision. I get to make that decision, and I will make that decision, but help me in deciding what to do with that money and make it sort of a community-based thing. Whether many of you watch this far into the video, I'm not sure, but I'd really appreciate some comments down below to help me in the right direction. Anyway, thank you for watching this far into the video. If you enjoyed the video, give the video a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one.